Hi, everyone. That was really funny. I was so busy talking to these two fascinating gentlemen that I forgot to hit the go live button. So sorry, everyone. That was my fault. We are here back again with the lovely Lance Schuttler from Ascent Nutrition and the brilliant Timo Tastutar, our lovely vet friend. And we are going to be talking about something that I'm really, really passionate about, guys. It's about the five senses, and today we're going to be, a lot of what we're talking about applies to humans and our lovely furry friends, our pet species. But we're just talking about the real importance of nutrition and the effect it has on the five senses and the clues that our animals or our bodies might be giving ourselves that something's going amiss. So
Yes.
it's going to be a good one. So let's start with you today, Timo, before we get into the subject. How are you? Hi, Monique. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, I wanted to say hello to Monique. And I feel very good. And I'm working on a song for my boy's birthday party tomorrow. And it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. So the song is easy peasy lemon squeezy because he likes to say it all the time. And everything's fine. And I'm really excited to talk about this because this is something that a lot of cats and dogs, especially, and people do suffer from, and they don't even realize it. So they still, when they realize it, when they really lost a lot of it, and that's why I want to talk about it.
Yeah, we're so passionate about making sure that whether you're a human or an animal, that you really are at full vitality. And sometimes we don't realize how much of that we've lost until we start to get it back. So, Lance, how are you doing? You're looking full of vitality as usual today. How's it going with you?
Thanks, Catherine. I'm feeling full of vitality and also very excited to talk about this. We've talked about this off screen before. Just really over the past couple years is when I've sort of become aware of and really sort of diving deep on DHA and what it's doing for the animals and people. And so I'm really interested and excited to talk about this as relates to vision and the whole nervous system and all the senses, because these oils are quite magical for conducting electricity.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one. And this is why I love these discussions so much, because we're talking about sort of obviously bringing in certain things, particularly in relation to our animal health today. But please don't forget this applies to you. And I will be keeping an eye on the questions as we go through. Oh, we've got lots of people joining us. Monique, thank you so much. Same Radiant. And Andrea, who normally does our moderating, is on holiday at the moment. I won't say where she is, so I'm sure you're sitting there with a nice cocktail, Andrea. Oh,
Yes.
she's all right. She's saying she's in sunny Spain. So let's get started on today's conversation. As I said, please don't be shy about asking questions, people. And what I'll do is I'll stop the conversation every so often and go through the questions. So, Timo, let's start with the five senses and why they're so important, the clues that they can give us to our animals' health and our own health.
Okay, let's start with a bit more esoteric style basics. So everything around us are vibration and electromagnetic fields, sounds, visual clues, not just the light, but also changes in shadows, colors. Everything has the same type of effect on us. That means all information has a certain type of amplification in the brain, and then it results in an impulse, right? So don't think that as just a gathering of information about your surroundings, but all of them has, like hormones, a certain impact on everything we do, everything we think, and how we feel, how we even digest. And once the senses are not good anymore, not normal anymore, then also the effects of these impulses change. That means things that we need for proper functioning, like let's say you wake up in the morning and you want to really wake up your whole body. If you don't have enough light, it's really hard, isn't it? Because the light has an impact on your awakening process. So, but if your eyes are not functioning well and your skin is covered all the time, and then suddenly the waking up process is depending on the lovely coffee and not sunlight anymore. And that's a huge impact. It's like, it's not something small. It's not something that you can just brush away, right? That's why five senses, although the sixth one, seventh one, sense of balance, everything is connected to what we eat, what we are built of, and if these things change, then everything change. But the changes are so small, incremental, that in a point we don't really realize till it reaches a point that is really, really different than it was before. And cats and dogs mostly cannot express this. What they do is they don't want to eat anymore, they don't feel right anymore, they lay around, and suddenly you realize, okay, this is something is wrong. And we have to stop that before it reaches that spot, right?
It's a really good point. I mean, even from personal experience, from a human experience, when I didn't realize for years that I had severe hearing loss, because I assumed no one could hear what the teacher or what people were saying. And it was only when I started working with a lot of Finnish people that are very softly spoken and doing a lot of telephone conferences that I realized, no, it was just me that couldn't hear. But with animals, with, you know, obviously I work professionally with all species, but also have lots of my own. And one of the things that I've noticed really there's a lot of misconception about Timo and Lance is we put a lot of things down to the normal aging process, which actually aren't the normal aging process. So, for example, I've seen numerous times, more times than I care to remember, dogs, even with cataracts, with sight issues, with hearing issues, with taste issues, with skin issues, be completely reversed through naturally looking at removing the toxins and plugging the plugs with what they should have in their bodies. So nutrition is so key to getting everything communicating and working properly in the body, isn't it?
I totally agree. But there are some key nutrients that are above all others, right? Of course, we have a lot of micronutrients that nobody will talk about selenium, molybdenum, and all that stuff that has a certain effect, of course, on vision. Or we have the basic elements we all need, like calcium, chlorine, sodium, iron, that have all their small impact on everyday life. But generally speaking, the amount of carbs, protein, fats, and the types of carb, protein, and fats play the biggest role. And what changes in your body, especially your lens, not your lens, but the lens of the eye, and visual acuity, and of course the sense of taste has a lot to do with our nose, so the smell, and of course all our senses has direct connection with our microbiome, which is hard to believe, but yes, the bacteria in us has a direct impact on how we interpret in what we are getting from outside. But what do you say, Lance?
Yeah, absolutely, Timo. Just like you said, the micronutrients are so important, but it's the sort of bigger compounds that we're looking at, the fats, the carbs, the proteins that are going to really shape, who we are or who the animals are. And so monitoring that and, having good understanding of basic nutrition, is really important. And when we say basic nutrition, obviously we're talking about natural, real nutrition and not the mainstream basic nutrition feeding animals terrible, terrible things. So definitely, Timo, they're building blocks. Clearly, they make up the cells, which then makes up the organs, which then makes up, the human or the animal. And so what we put in truly does feed and build and restore and repair what's going on.
And the quality of water, maybe we should talk about it in a separate video, but the quality of water has a huge, huge impact on especially pets' body, because they drink water normally separately from their food, not like we do, but they have always sip in between a lot. And that has a huge impact on horses and cats and dogs, and how their bodies, how their body is reacting to it, because water is the connector, the connection in all our body between all cells. So it has a huge impact, of course.
Yeah, we will definitely do a separate one because it's massive. I was just joking by doing my assistant bit there, holding up my Flasker structured water bottle. But I would encourage on my YouTube channel, you will find a video I did with an amazing man who runs Flasker water and structured water. And of course, there's loads of water filtrations. Lance and I have spoken about this a lot in the past. So the nutrition, we keep coming back to the nutrition and how important it is. Now, dogs and cats, let's talk about those because a lot of people watching at the moment will have a dog or a cat that they're showing their life with. Now, dogs and cats, their main sense is the sense of smell, isn't it? And if that's going awry, if there's something wrong that's making that not work properly, it's going to affect every aspect of what foods they choose to eat, their ability to make sense of their environment, their stress levels and everything.
Yeah, so all animals that are born blind or like with closed eyes has a much higher sense of smell than everyone else, because when we are born, we don't see perfectly, but we still see a lot. But the cats and dogs, they get acquainted to their mother through only smell. So that's the only thing they have. They don't hear very well at the beginning either. So that's an important thing. And so they keep that level of dependence on smell, on their smell, so high that with just a bit of perfume, you can totally disorient them. And that happens all the time, especially when people are a bit heavy on the spraying. Suddenly, their animal might have vertigo, totally lose their sense of balance and sight. And yeah, that's an interesting thing. And it shows how impactful it is. Although, of course, they have far more nerve endings in their noses and all that stuff. But it's here. It's the amplification. Like some humans, when humans lose their eyesight, they have also heightened sense of smell and hearing capacity. So that means the amplification makes the end product of sense, and they are really geared towards it. And you can really affect that by changing the neurotransmitters, the way the environment moves, resonance, colors, light, sense, everything. That means everything around has a direct impact on the sense of smell, although it's not directly connected. We don't think it's correlated, but it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, talk us about some of the key nutrients. I was listening to another talk that you and Lance did together, and it was really wonderful how you were pulling together how the DHA is so crucial in the communication of all cells, and particularly in, the five senses. Can you talk us through that a bit? We'll start with you, Timo, and then go on to Lance, if that's okay.
Yes, Lance is, of course, expert in this, but I would like to say that certain nutrients like fatty acids, they are so connected to our evolution. All species, not just us, but everyone on this earth is connected to it. So without communication, there is no organization, and without organization, there is no organism. So to become an organism, at least an organized system, you need communication, and DHA is the core of it. So if that's not there, then the organization just crumbles down slowly, one by one.
So, Lance, we're going to ask you, there's a lot of people that are watching this that might not have watched our other videos. So before you sort of comment on that from Timo, could you just please explain to our listeners about what DHA is and how they would normally be used to hearing about getting it into theirs or their animal's diet?
Yeah, definitely, Catherine. So DHA, people know this also as an omega-3 fatty acid or an essential omega-3 fatty acid. Essential meaning that it has to be consumed in the diet. And just like Timo said, animals need it, we humans need it. And so what it is it's this fatty acid that actually makes up a large portion of the neuron. And so just like Timo said, it's needed for communication to happen, because that's how communication happens throughout the body, is the nervous system and the neurons communicating with each other. And so normally the way people would, or animals would get this, is from fish oil, because algae in the sea actually helps to produce and contains the DHA and other fatty acids. And then fish and other, let's say krill will consume the algae, and then they incorporate it into their cellular membranes. And then, we humans or animals consume the fish or the fish oil, and that's where we're getting the DHA and the EPA. But just as a person can see, we can actually bypass that whole process of the fish and just go straight to the algae. And so that's, what we're doing with Ascent Nutrition. We'll talk about that more a little bit later, but that's exactly how it can be done and how we're doing it, because we want to get the cleanest source possible. Obviously, there's a lot of issues with fish oil in the fishing industry. And so we just are water extracting an ancient strain of algae to get this DHA that we need. And, kind of coming back around to what Timo said, just like you said, Timo, we have sort of evolved based off of this DHA. And this is so important because this is literally one of only a few compounds that have not changed its structure or function in, let's say, millions or billions of years. Who knows what the real number is? And what that means is that, as species change and evolve, the cells and certain compounds change in their structure and function to better serve the organism. But DHA has not changed because it has maintained its efficiency in communication and what it does. So, just like you said, Timo, it's crucial and absolutely necessary for communication to take place in the brain and nervous system throughout the whole body. And that's exactly right, because it is literally like the most important fundamental, let's say, evolutionary compound that's in an animal body as well as us humans.
Can I just also bring into there? So obviously most humans are used to thinking of that getting for themselves or their animals the DHA from fish oils. And if anyone wants to understand why you shouldn't be getting it from fish oils, please go back to our video from last week and the week before and watch those, because we explain that in great detail. But obviously a lot of dogs and cats wouldn't eat fish in the wild, but of course they would be eating animals. And we've all of us who've got dogs and cats know they're very selective, and they will seek out drinking from puddles with certain algae on and things as well. Would they be getting some of the DHA from that as well, or from prey animals that have consumed algae?
Yes, small amounts for sure. It depends, like your water example, Catherine. If there's some sort of phytoplankton or algae in the water, they will get very small amounts of it. It just sort of depends. And hopefully the water is clean and it's a beneficial source of algae or plankton.
Yeah.
But definitely it'll get small amounts for sure. And then depending on what they're eating, if they're eating another animal or fish, then they are going to get some as well. It just sort of depends. But Timo, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, but that actually connects here to Alison O'Brien's question. Is I'm just back from the park with my little dog, has just eaten a bowl of really good sardines in olive oil, good or bad? So is it canned, or did you just put the sardines in olive oil? Olive oil generally is not very positive for dogs or cats. It has too high omega-6 fatty acids, but not the ones that a cat needs, and too much omega-6 fatty acid that the dog definitely doesn't need. And that's why cats and dogs shouldn't eat much olive oil if possible. And the sardines, they are really good if you give them fresh or just boiled for 3 minutes. But having them in the typical sardine can from Portugal, Spain, France, whatever, is not the best idea. But they are very rich in calcium, so it's a very good source of omega-3 fatty acids and calcium and other things like vitamin D, but they shouldn't be canned.
Yeah. Okay. Just before we move on to the next session, a couple of other sort of questions. Absolutely, Monique, you can use the same bottle of DHA for you and your dog. I do that for all our families. I mean, you might not want to let the dog actually suck off the pipette, because if not, you might watch it. But yeah, my dogs, my cats, my humans, they all use the same one. So that's no problem at all.
I want to tell something here. I forgot to talk about this before, also with Lens. But we always calculate medicine and a lot of nutrients according to the weight of the dog or cat. But the dependence on omega-3 fatty acids, or how much you need, do not linearly change with the weight. So an average person, 90 kilos or 60 kilos, need similar amount of omega-3 fatty acids. They don't need, just because they're like 20 kilos more, suddenly accordingly far more. That's why if you're around 1 milliliter with your dog and half a milliliter with your cat, you're on the safe side. You don't have to change according to their size much. Of course, if it's a mastiff and a massive, then you can start to increase a bit, or Irish wolfdog. But normally the difference between a Chihuahua and Labrador shouldn't be that high.
Yeah. Okay. Quick question here from Miha. Is neem oil helpful for
Phthalasia
in dogs' eyes?
Yeah.
Keep coming back. So Timo, have you got any comments on that?
Well, neem oil, I just tried neem powder in powder form, so I cannot comment for the neem oil, but I know the medication is a bit dangerous. That's true. But I didn't use it. Yeah, you can try it on your own risk, of course. But I hear very good things about neem oil, but I never use it myself.
I use it a lot with animals in my practice, but self-selection. But what I would say, whatever your real name is you need to use it with caution, because it's very much what's one animal's medicine is another one's poison. And some animals react really positively to neem oil, and some animals react really, really negatively. So if your animal is not comfortable around the neem oil, smelling it, showing a real interest in it, then I would find an alternative for that. Because if it's not the right substance, it can equally do some harm.
Yeah, and it's cooling, a very strong cooling oil. So, and it will be absorbed from the mucous membranes. So be careful; it will reduce the energy of the dog or cat, and it might cause them to feel like cold and not strong enough.
Yeah. There's an interesting one from Harry. If you're interested, dogs known to be vegetarian, was cats are carnivores and love fish. We can just cover that very briefly, Harry. There's a real caution with that, because if cats eat too much fish, it can be really not good for them, can't it, Timo?
Yes, that's correct. Actually, although cats love fish, fish's fatty acid structure is not that good for the cat. It's actually more suitable to the dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, cautiously every day, just a bit, or once or twice a week, fish-based meal is not a problem. But it's not an everyday pleasure normally. You should.
And lots of cats don't like fish. I can vouch for that. I've had lots of cats over the years and currently got 5. And of my 5, only one of them will eat fish. But the vegetarian one, we've done shows on that and everything. It's very, very hard to have your dog as a healthy vegetarian for lots of reasons. So outside the scope of this. A bladderwhack and dulse, is that the same as what we're talking about from getting the DHA from algae?
So from my point of view, I will let the rest for Lance, but I tried these, and no, it's not the same. Although both bladderwrack and dulse, they are really good, and they should be seen not just the source of omega-3, but for many things. And dulse has even taurine in it, so it's a totally different aspect, and they have a lot of micronutrients. So you can compare them to phytoplankton, because it's a complete food source, like it's or spirulina. It's a source of many things. But to pinpoint omega-3, I would really go with the algae oil.
Yeah, perfect. And just a couple more questions for the next bit. Colette, hi Colette. I know Colette well. Refuses the DHA in its food or by itself. This is quite a complicated one, as you know, Colette, because we've had quite a lot of talks about self-selection. So a lot depends when you're giving a cat things about how you're giving it, where you're giving it, the energy behind how you're giving it, etc., and also what the actual diet is. Because if it's on a good, well-balanced raw diet, it might be getting enough from its diet as well. So there's so many reasons for that, Colette. So it really depends what she's eating, whether there's any stress around her food as well. So the reason I'm saying that is I do self-selection animals, self-medicating, and I can be working with a client's animal. And because it's not my animal, I'm in a very neutral place about it. Whilst obviously if a client's worried about their animal, there's going to be some anxiety related to that. So if someone who's in a neutral place offers something, an animal will quite often take it rather than someone who's got sort of a strong emotional attachment. So, or it could be that that Tia doesn't need anymore because she's getting it from her food. So you're very experienced, Colette. You'll know which one of those it is, but it could be, there's lots of variations on that as to why. So great question. Thank you. We've got one here about organic flax oil. Okay to use.
Would you like to start, Lance, on this?
Timo, I think you're better answered for this one. I mean, I will say that, it depends. I mean, obviously, I think they're asking for one of their pets, and it looks like a dog. So Timo, if you can specify specifically, those omega-6 fatty acids that are in there, why is that?
Yeah, so flax oil normally has only ALA in it. It doesn't have DHA or EPA. And the dog has to convert them. A cat has a big problem converting them, and dogs have also problem converting them, but they still can just a bit. And yeah, I wouldn't use it for that reason. The second thing I don't like about flax oil is it is highly, how do you say it? It contains a lot of phytoestrogens, so it's not very good for the hormone balance, neither for females or males. And if you constantly using them, you start to have an impact on the hormonal system.
Yeah. A question from Charles. I'll start with this one on, is chicken good for dogs? It depends, because Charles, when you're looking at chicken, it depends whether it's organic, because obviously the battery raised chickens are pumped full of chemicals, antibiotics and everything. It also depends on what form you're giving it. So if you're giving raw organic chicken, as opposed to chicken in pouches or in kibble, it also depends what part of the body is being used. So what I would do, Charles, is direct you to the dog and cat nutrition courses. The links are below the video, and I'll put them in the chat in a minute, because you've got to look at using the different parts. So the liver and the heart have got different properties to the meat, and also is as part of a balanced diet, because no animal should eat the same protein source the whole time. Yeah. So that's really, really important. Have either of you got anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, me sure. So this chicken thing, especially in the US, I don't know where you are, Charles, but especially in the US, started in 1950s or like 40s in the World War II time. So before, chicken was not even popular for normal farmers to eat. And it became after the industrialization and realizing that they needed a lot of protein source for the masses, while most of the guys who worked with the sheep and cattle were gone, right? So it is not the best source for many things, but it's not a bad source if your dog is not allergic. And but yeah, please look at the course and let us know also what you think about it. But it's important that you understand the dynamics behind how to change the protein source, why avoid the same protein source all the time.
Yeah, so I'll put the link in a minute in the chat, Charles, to the course. Now, Cranky Pants, I love your name. I'll stop laughing when I say that. Your foster kittens, first of all, well done for being such an amazing mum to so many foster kittens. The clues in the name here, fish flavoured wet food. So again, without going into too many details, because we've covered this in other talks in our course, any pouch, any processed wet food is going to be generally very poor quality and not great for the animals. I do appreciate that you're a foster mum and that you've got a lot of mouths to feed. But yeah, there's going to be real issues with that. And unfortunately, that's not going to be a healthy start. Anything
yes, for sure. Most of the wet food that you can buy for cats, they are wet because cats that's the next subject we have to talk about anyway, are dependent on their tongue for recognition of taste, palatability, and recognition of nutrients. So they are not like dogs choosing their food with their nose, but they're choosing with their tongue mostly. That's why it's wet, because through wet food they get the flavors far better. The problem is to make that food that way, in that consistency, you have to add special salts and other things to stabilize them. And most of the time, like 99.999%, they are not very healthy salts. And that's why cats that eat mostly wet food also have their own problems over time. Typical kidney problems, gum problems. Yeah, they develop those because there are these things inside. They shouldn't be there for the longer term.
And I do promise you, Cranky McGee, and because you're a foster mum, I'm very happy if you email me on the contact details below this. Anyone who's got rescue animals, I will give you a discount on the courses, whether you want the dog or the cat ones, because we love anyone that rescues animals, and we want
that's amazing.
Very accessible to you. It's the course that Timo and I run, so I should have checked with you first, but I know you're always happy to, Timo. So please do email me on the below. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to help with this one, Timo, or not, because obviously it's difficult without more information.
There is a natural way, but I think that would take you, move from where you are, be totally disconnected from everything that has a connection with that trauma. So this is not so easy to do. I have no idea how to do it better. I'm very sorry, but this is a lifelong thing.
Yeah. Sorry, carry on, Lance.
Yeah, something that may, I think is worth looking into, and I agree 100%, Timo. Getting out of the situation is best if they can. But there's flower essences that dogs and cats can take in water. And one company that I know of, it's not my company, but it's called Green Hope Farm Flower Essences here in the US. And they're making incredible flower essences. They don't put alcohol in it. But these flower essences are meant to address sort of like the emotional aspects of the body and really just sort of help animals and people work through trauma in all the different forms that it takes. Now, it's something that some animals and some people feel it literally right away. Some it's days, some it's weeks, sometimes even longer. So it just sort of depends, but that would be something worth looking into.
Great info. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I will also add a good pharmacognosy, which is self-medicating practitioner, can really help release the trauma. Plus, also, I know Monique's put in here that she does trauma release. So there's lots of natural therapists that can work with you and the dog, because that's absolutely crucial. And actually, you may want to listen in 2 weeks' time, because we're going to be talking about the new hemp oil. And that's something that I find is selected a lot by animals that have suffered trauma. So please do tune in a couple of weeks, James. A good question here from Beth, and then we'll move on. Can you give cats too much raw meat?
No.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Ask a lion.
And one thing I will say, cats are absolutely expert at self-regulating their food intake when you feed them real raw food, not pouches and kibble that's got things. Now, Beth has been doing, I know Beth, and she's been doing an amazing job with her rescue cats. She did make a comment above. They were very traumatized when they came to, I hope Beth won't make me mind this, and to get them used to Beth, Beth's been tying string to her and running around the house, and they've been playing, chasing her. So one of the things we do is we work with traumatized animals in other ways as well. So you've been doing an amazing job. But no, they can't have too much raw meat, Beth. And Beth has been doing the course as well, and she knows about the balance. You're doing such a great job. Well done.
I want to say also, if you're feeding your cats only twice a day, the satiating point of the meat is its real value to the body. That means the stomach just carries that much. That's enough to carry the right amount of food. Does it make sense? So when the stomach is satiated, because you have different systems to be satiated, then that's enough already. If it's raw meat, good quality organs and that stuff, that means you can never really overfeed a cat if it eats real food. It's really hard to do that.
And I have animals that have come from quite poor backgrounds in the past. And what I find is initially, if they've been starved for a while, they might overeat for a short amount of time. I never worry about it. That's just the fact that they're just getting used to the fact that they're going to be fed regularly. And then they very quickly move into, or depending, you know, some take longer. I have one that took a while to self-regulate, but they all do. It's just that relief to them that they're getting good quality regular food. So I never worry if I've got a new animal that takes a little while to regulate their eating amount, because I know it's always going to happen. So I just trust and let them build the confidence with that. So that's great. Yeah, Cranky Pants. Yeah, the dry course obviously has got similar issues. So please do email me and I'll give you a good discount. So let's talk about some of the other senses, folks. So smell, absolutely crucial to all our animals. It's one of the main ways they communicate. Eyesight is a big issue, isn't it? Again, like you were saying, both of you earlier, where often people don't realize that animals have got a problem with their eyesight until it's...
Or their own eyesight.
Or their own.
Yeah. Yeah. But you are
so small, the comments. I must get my new computer screen. Yes, so talk us through the impact of the diet and your nutritional, because we are talking here about sort of domesticated dogs and cats that are typically fed commercial food, and how disastrous that can be for this. So
if we go back to our course, you remember we talked a lot about also we made a live show, I think, about true organic natural vitamins versus the synthetic ones, and that starts there already. So vision is very dependent on very good fatty acids and some minerals and vitamins, and when you are not getting them in the right form, then you suddenly start to reduce the quality of your senses, because the senses are depending on it. And the sight is the one that is mostly connected to the quality of food the most. So that means the sight is very dependent on the quality of what you feed your dog and cat with. And if it's not right, it goes bad really quick. And cataract is a very good sign of that the fat balance is not right, not enough protein, maybe too much carb, too much inflammation, and not enough high quality fatty acids. Yeah, what do you say, Lance? You know this stuff well.
So yeah, no, exactly, Timo. I mean, it really just goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that all these nutrients are building blocks. Cells need nutrients so that they can build, repair, and self-destruct when it's necessary. And it's just sort of like a car or a machine. You have to have all the parts there for it to work right. And if all the parts aren't there, it's not going to work the way that it should. Now it can get along and chug down the road, so to speak, but if it's not getting or if it doesn't have what it needs, so us humans or animals, if we don't have the nutrients that we need, then things aren't going to work the way that it should. Yeah. But again, the slow degradation of health takes time. And just like you said earlier, a lot of people think that this is just part of the aging process. And while it is fundamentally, it doesn't have to be that way in terms of, cats and dogs getting old, so to speak, 5 or 6 or 7 years down their road. They should be living long, vibrant lives and fully active and healthy, really for the most part of their lives.
Yeah, I know a surgeon. He stopped doing surgery with 86 years old.
Yeah.
He didn't have problem with the eyes or anything else. So he was very stable. Of course, he ate a lot of fruit and vegetables, so a lot. Most of his diet was plant-based. But he was totally, he just stopped because he thought that it's getting a bit risky for the patient. So he just wanted to walk away. It's not like he couldn't anymore.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing, huh?
And the one thing I would also add to that is something I work a lot with people, and I've seen huge improvements in vision from getting their diet right, getting the right supplementation to sort of give them the right building blocks, as we said, which now we would definitely be using the algae oil, and also from safely detoxing the body, because that can have a huge effect on all the senses, particularly vision. Now, one thing I wanted to add for anyone who's got the dog and cat nutrition courses or are going to be getting them, you will soon have 3 new modules as soon as Timo and I have got some time to finish them off. One is going to be on healthily feeding bones, how to safely feed bones for your cats or dogs. One is going to be on the importance of DHA in the algae oil and how important that is and how to use that with your dogs and cats. And one is going to be on how to safely, why you would need to detox them and safely. So you're going to get a lot more information coming as part of those courses, and anyone who's already got them will have access to that, obviously, for free. So we are adding to them all the time. Harry, yes, we have got, if you look at the Vibrant Animal Team video playlist that we've got above, Timo and I have in the past done a whole show on water and the quality of water for your animals, and also all aspects of water. And as I said above, but it might have been, you might have joined afterwards, I've also done ones on structured water as well. So absolutely essential, the quality of water for your animals. And there's a lot of information. If people look at Andrea's put the link in the chat above. Thank you, Andrea, to the water, the Flasker video, where we talk about structured water. And I will put the link in a minute as soon as I get off talking to this about the show that we did on water. So if you go back to my YouTube channel and look at the Vibrant Animal Team playlist, you will see a lot of videos that Timo and I and Lance have done over the last 2 years on so many different, subjects, etc. So great. So what else do people need to know, folks, about how nutrition can affect the 5 senses? Obviously, we did a whole thing on skin, but it will, skin, or if we're looking at touch and sensitivity, has got a big, massively affected by nutrition, isn't it?
Yes, and especially on the reflexes, that it's not talked much about. I don't know why. But reflexes are really dependent on what you eat, especially on your microbalance, like all the mineral balance is super important. Vitamin B6 is super important, vitamin B1. These play major role in how quick you can react to danger or in your daily life. So if you feel like you are getting slower and you are not that quick anymore with your reflexes, of course, age has an effect. But sometimes I think we are too quick to blame the age or just, just push it over to the blame box instead of thinking like what we are doing wrong. Me included, everyone does it.
Yeah,
exactly. And something I was reading about just earlier is there's studies showing how, okay, we know that DHA is highly concentrated at the synapses, the end of the synapses. And so when part of that is there, when that happens, the communication happens through the synapse, like the gap junction right there. And so studies have shown that when people or animals get enough of the DHA or these omega-3 fatty acids, the actual connections and the communication actually speeds up. So it makes sense with what you're just saying. And of course, if you're getting the minerals in there, that is crucial and necessary too. But it's just sort of the whole message we've been echoing this whole time, which is it's a full spectrum of nutrients that we're looking for, but there are certain ones that really are power players and are important. And DHA is clearly one of those nutrients.
Yeah, and some things are expendables, right? I always say that, but if you look at your room or your house, you see the building blocks, everything is there, but the sandpaper is not there, the brushes are not there, all the expendables that are necessary to build something are not visible anymore. So is omega-3 fatty acid. I mean, they do a lot of jobs and they are gone, and you have to replenish them. And when you break down the tissue, they are not always there. So you think that they might be not there, but they were used to build that process, right? Like vitamin C in the tendons. It's also when you break down the tendon tissue, there is no vitamin C, but without it, it couldn't be produced. So I think it's crucial. By the way, we forgot to tell it, but we were talking about senses and communication. The DHA is the most crucial thing for any cell to feel anything, like to communicate with any other cell, its environment, with the intercellular matrix. That's the fluid between the cells that keeps it together. And without it, there is no cell communication, which is then a dead organism, because without cell communication, nothing can happen. You cannot think, you cannot function.
Timo, so a question based off of that. Why? So you explained it, but could you go a little bit further in depth? Why is it that DHA is the most important for the cellular communication? Like, what's the actual mechanism as to, like, why that is the most important?
Well, okay, so because we are humans, we think that we think with our brains, right? And when we take the cell, we think the cell thinks with its nucleus. But it's not like that. So you can empty the nucleus and the cell just works fine. It cannot replicate anymore properly, but it just works fine. So the reason for that is the thinking of the cell is made on its external membrane that keeps the cell together. And that is primarily made out of different fatty acids and proteins, or peptides, let's say. And each and every cell and each and every species have their own characteristics, signatures into this, because the signature happens according to their interaction with their environment. And the thinking, the selective process of nutrients or anything else, and getting rid of the excess waste products, everything is decided by this membrane. And both DHA and EPA and all different fatty acids for different species play a major role in this. That means the decision making is somehow made through this membrane, and the membrane decides a lot of things itself. We still don't understand it properly, but it's there.
Fascinating, Timo. Thank you.
Yeah, it really, really is. And the thing is, I cannot stress enough how many issues can be put right when you address the nutrition. We've talked about this before, but when an animal is so in tune with their senses and so in tune with their intuition, they know when they're physically out of balance. We all know what we feel like if we put on an extra bit of weight, or if we're not fit, or we're not healthy, or we're feeling under the weather and feeling vulnerable. But for animals, that changes for all of us. But animals are far more perceptive often than us humans. It changes the pheromones that we're giving out, and it changes the messages and the energy that they're giving out. So therefore, every animal will react differently to them. So I want to go back to James Kastner, who's saying about his dog attacked 3 times. If there's a repeating pattern like that, then there's so much that can be done to help James, because there's training that needs to be done for you to help you stop your dog getting in situations where she's vulnerable like that, but also looking at the physical health of the dog and some training techniques, because this is definitely stoppable. But if dogs are consistently going for your dog, there's a reason for it, which needs to be addressed obviously urgently, because she's getting the trauma, but it can be addressed. And normally it's things that the humans need to change to address that. But yeah, the physical balance, if your animal, I just cover this with more clients, if your animal is physically not getting the right building blocks for health and vitality, not only does it cause them a lot of physical stress, but emotional stress that can come out in behaviors. Because bear in mind, dogs are pack animals, and in the wild, if they're the weak link in the pack, they'll be pushed out of the pack because they'll bring the pack into danger. So you
in kindergarten.
Yeah. Oh, yes. It's so true. And this is the unfortunately what it's like, but they carry that instinct forward. So then if your dog is, say, I'm not saying this is a case, James, but say your dog is physically out of balance, your dog will be giving off signs to other dogs which are saying, keep away from me, you're bringing me into the pack into danger. So there's so many reasons for it. That's just one of them. But nutrition is key. This is quite a good question. Do dogs need salt or honey glucose?
The answer is not so straightforward for salt. For honey and glucose, the answer is no. We will talk about it. But for salt, if you with salt, you mean table salt. And if your dog is an active athlete or working dog and always on the heat and really have to sweat or let's say perspirate all the time and use electrolytes for his muscle tissue, then salt might be necessary, but it's enough in the food normally. Even if you feed just a bit of carrots and everything, you will have enough. For glucose, dogs produce their own glycogen, turning from proteins. You do not need to give your dog any carbohydrates except fibers. That said, dogs can use glucose, and dogs like to get some glucose in the form of apples, pears, not overly loaded fruits, so to speak, not um, highly full of sugars, but still have some sugars. That's not dangerous for dogs. It's a bit more dangerous for cats. But yeah, they don't need. And honey, they don't need either. It's too full of energy in a form that they don't need, and they cannot process with their brain that amount of sugar. And and their pancreas doesn't have the capacity to digest all that properly.
Question here from Harry about this is a long one. I've got some opinions on this or facts about this, about a keto diet for dogs. Timo, I know that you've got a lot.
Oh yeah, I have so much to say about it, but let's keep it short. A keto diet for dog does not exist. So dogs can have no ketosis 3 days long. So you can feed them 0 for 3 days long, and they will still not be in ketosis. Their body refuses to go to keto. So the keto diet has no effect on dog in case like it does for rats or humans. What it does, though, it will overload over time the pancreas, and it will start a heavy pancreatitis and type of diabetic reaction. Not diabetic, but let's say insulin resistance. So it's even like once a month, you can do a fast. Once a month fast is far better than any type of keto diet. But if you have once a month, then that's not a diet either. So keto diet for dogs is like nonsensical. But for humans, yeah, for some, it works for a short while. That's not the problem. But for dogs, it's not feasible.
And we do cover the benefit of a 1 day a month fast for dogs, not cats, in the course. That's why I'm coming back as a cat next life. I like my food. So really good questions, guys. I'm loving all your questions. Thank you so much. Because every time someone asks a question, everyone else will learn a lot from it. So I appreciate that. Lots of people loving your background picture of Timo, of you just about to be eaten by a cat. So that's
I made it myself. Thank you very much. That's I shot it, so I love it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. I really agree with this. I could not agree with you most, Monique. Most people should observe their animals more or better, so they pick up the differences sooner or better. Timo and I have talked so much about this, haven't we, Timo? We've got videos on the channel about how to check your dog over, what sort of things to look out for, because again, it's just like being honest with ourselves. None of us are perfect, and we're all learning all the time, and we will have misinformation that we believe, and then we'll suddenly notice that it's not suiting us or our dogs or our cats properly. Sorry, that's my phone. So it's really important to just keep that open mind, which I can see you've all got beautifully on here, to just constantly want to do the best and learn the best we can. But the most important thing is what Monique is saying here, is to notice those signs as early as possible, because the earlier you step in and take remedial action, the better it is for you and your animals. So a thing here, Raven's kitten doesn't like tap water. Don't blame it.
Me neither.
But loves the water that comes from my zero water filter, where I've also put in some detox crystals.
Well, I'm sure that crystals can break down some of the toxins, but I think the filter does more of the job than the crystal. But I can also say that in winter, when the weather is chaotic, sometimes we have ice crystals on my car that are so chaotic and look so negative, but sometimes they are so beautiful. So I think that the crystals and the frequency has a major impact on how the water behaves.
Yeah. And I'm a big advocate for choice for your animals. So, there's so many different types of water filter out there and everything. And we all know, those of us that have got outdoor cats and dogs, that they'll be very selective about which puddles they drink from and everything. So the best way for you to know what your animals want best is give them a selection. And all the clients that I work with, when I'm working with the natural remedies and things, I say, right, put 3 bowls of water down for a bit, put 1 from your water filter, 1 from your tap, 1 from if you're collecting rainwater, or if you're adding certain things, certain healing things to it, and let your animals choose. Because bear in mind, if they've only got 1, they might prefer it to the tap water, but they still not got a choice. I can't drink tap water anymore. I'd need to be really desperate to drink tap water because I can smell what's in it, a lot of the stuff. So that's really great that you're all doing these things. And it's really good for you to learn by putting down a different choice and see what they eat. Now, I'm not talking about putting down a pouch of processed food versus a packet of processed kibble, because there's all the additives in there that are going to mislead. But when you're looking at water quality, that's the best way for you to get your feedback as to what suits your animals. How do you feel about crystals litter compared to clay litter? I mean, I'd
never use it.
Yeah, let your cats choose, I would say, because just making sure there's none of the nasty chemicals in there, and smelling them. So anything else? I can't believe we're nearly at an hour. Lance, anything else that you want to add? I mean, we talked a lot about the quality is absolutely essential, isn't it? The quality of any supplements you're giving your animals.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we do what we do with Ascent Nutrition, in particular with that algae oil DHA that we've been talking about. Is we want to offer the clean and the purest for humans and animals, because as we've talked about, we both need this DHA and the little bit of EPA and the small amount of fatty acids that are also in there. But the DHA is so crucial and so important that getting it from the pure, clean source then becomes so important. Because if we're getting it from fish and fish oil, we know how polluted the waters are, the heavy metals, the pesticides, all of that stuff. And so literally the most important fatty acid in the body really should be come at and consumed in a way that it's as pure and clean as possible.
It's so true for that. And, this is why I've waited so long to have one that I can actually recommend. And I would caution, now, anyone who's buying ready-made raw food for your dogs and cats, one, well done, because that's so much better than the pouches of things. But I would caution you to have a look at the ingredients, because I get so many clients that tell me that they're feeding a good quality raw food. And then I say, send across the link so I can have a look. And so many of them have got farmed fish oils added to them, for example.
Yeah, or too much fat, general. So a lot of them are have too much fat.
Yeah. Anything else for you before we finish, Timo?
No, I'm fine. But I agree with Monique here that you have to smell their ears and paws to know when they're healthy, how it is, because sometimes I just check the smell of a horse and I already know what's wrong. And that's a very positive thing. So it's good thinking there, Monique. Good thinking there.
Yeah, and Raven's made a similar sort of comment in terms of listen to them as time behaviors and things. So I would, first and foremost, I would really, really like to thank Lance and Timo, because it's so amazing, this information you're sharing. Lance, we're very, very grateful for all the research and effort you put in. And trust me, folks, Timo and I quiz Lance on absolutely everything, and we don't talk about anything until we've used it ourselves, and we're really, really happy. So I'm very grateful to both of you for your amazing expertise. And thank you for all of you that have participated. The fact that you're here and you're giving your time to listen to this is so important. Your pets will thank you so much. And quite a few of you on here, I know, and I know just how much you're actually doing for your animals. And it just really makes my heart sing. I would also like to thank Andrea big time for joining us. I wasn't expecting that, Andrea, on her holiday in Spain, to put the links in here. And please, please, please do go to the YouTube channel and look at the Vibrant Animal Team playlist and also the health playlist, because like some of the videos we've done with Lance, we've been talking more on the human side of things, and they're on the health playlist, because there is so much information that we've covered over the last 2 years that is going to answer a lot of these questions, like, you know, what food is best and things like this. So please do look at that, and please do always look at the links in the comments box below the video, because we always put the links for where you can get the products. You can also go to the catherineedwards.live product page and the consult page there. So most of the information is there. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time to talk.
I just want to answer one more question. Very short one.
What's that? Yeah.
It's from James Kastner again. What dog food is best? The best dog food is the one that you make yourself after knowing what to do. So that would be the best dog food.
And we've got the course teaching you exactly how to do that the links are below. And it's really, really reasonable and really comprehensive. And we've had brilliant feedback from it. And I'm not just singing your own trumpet, but it's so important, because Timo and I have been working this area for so long. We know that the difference it will make. And it's so easy once you get into the swing of things. People think it's going to be really complicated. And of course, initially you're getting a few new bits in, but once you've got it, you know, I did have 3 dogs. I'm now down to 2, and 5 cats. And if I can do it and my husband can do it, anyone can. So thanks so much. We're going to be back in 2 weeks talking about something that I'm really, really excited about. A brilliant new hemp oil and all the benefits that can bring to humans and animals. So do check out. And if you like what you've seen, please do share it with any animal friends, because our mission is to reach as many animal parents as possible, so that they can make the best decisions possible for their loved ones. Thank you, everyone. We'll be back soon. Bye.
Bye.